week's Torah portion, Kitetse, contains 74 mitzvot, which is the most of any Torah portion that we read all year. And so because it's so rich, I'm going to be offering 2 chunks of teaching tonight, so bear with me. It will not be longer, don't worry. The mitzvot in Kitetse run the gamut, representing a huge spectrum of commandments related to family, friends, property, loans, divorce. If you can name it, it's probably in this week's Torah portion. The Talmud comments on all of these mitzvot and ranks them from easiest to hardest to observe. We read this week about the mitzvah that the Talmudic rabbis actually said was the easiest one in the entire Torah to keep. The Torah states, "If walking along the road you chance upon a bird's nest, and the mother is sitting over the fledglings or on the eggs, do not take the mother together with her young. Let the mother go and take only the young, in order that you may fare well and live a long life." It's a nice gesture, but in the scheme of things we're asked by the Torah to do, it's a pretty small action that's not that hard to complete. You could easily scare the mother bird away by clapping or making a loud noise, and voila, you've done this mitzvah. So because of that, the Talmud determines that it was the easiest one to perform. But the thing that's strange is if it is the easiest mitzvah to perform, why does it explicitly state that the reward is a long life? Usually in the Torah, there's no stated reward for a specific mitzvah. But in this case, it specifically says you may fare well and have a long life. Scare the mother bird, make a small noise, clap your hands, and you have a long life. Seems like a good deal. Why is the reward so large for such a small amount of work? Rabbi Irving Greenberg, a contemporary rabbi, teaches that the lesson behind the big reward for this simple mitzvah is that every single thing that we do matters. That, as Rabbi Greenberg writes, every act is of immense significance. If even a relatively simple mitzvah to perform can elicit a huge reward, it reminds us that our lives are primarily composed of small decisions, little opportunities to do the right thing. And though we may think that this doesn't matter, or this is not important, or I'll come back tomorrow, this small decision is of little consequence. Each of our actions have the opportunity for great reward for us, for our communities, and for the people that we love. As I mentioned at the start of services, and Rabbi Powers mentioned repeatedly, and so has Cantor Luck, this is the month of Elul, the month of reflection before Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. During this time, we are meant to turn inward and to reflect on our actions over the past year. We're meant to ask ourselves, am I happy with the person that I am? Have I behaved in a way that I am proud of? What do I want to change this year? This week's Torah portion with this simple mitzvah reminds us of the seriousness of these questions. It reminds us that each of our actions is significant. And as we look inside ourselves, we must dig deep and examine even the seemingly insignificant things we do every day. Listening to the New York Times daily podcast this morning, which I'm guessing many of you did as well, I was struck by how much the Queen, may her memory be a blessing, really lived that idea from this week's Torah portion. Though her role as figurehead of a state was by definition entirely symbolic, every day she chose to use her position to spread kindness and good in small, simple ways. Showing up at restaurant openings, hospitals, local churches, and more, she went out of her way to be visible and present for the British people with her waves and handshakes and hugs. Over decades, these small acts of kindness slowly added up to a huge legacy, making her a universally beloved people who truly led from the heart. As the Queen embodied, each action, each small choice that we make provides us with an opportunity to do the right thing and be the person that we want to be. Though we may not be symbolic figureheads of state, our small actions can also have a huge impact over time. So another of the commandments that we learn about this week in the Torah portion is the mitzvah of Hashavat Avedah, the returning of lost objects to their owners. The word hashavat shares a root with tshuva, the central idea of the High Holy Days, of returning to our best selves, to our relationships, and to God. This week, the Torah portion teaches us the following. If you see your fellow's ox or sheep gone astray, do not ignore it. You must take it back to your fellow. If your fellow does not live near you, or you do not know who he is, you shall bring it home, and it shall not remain with you until your fellow claims it. Then you shall give it back to him. You shall do the same with his donkey. You shall do the same with his garment, and you too shall do the same with anything that your fellow loses and you find. Lo titalem, you must not remain indifferent. It's sort of like the Torah's version of a regulated lost and found system. Though today, we think of lost and found as a weird mishmash of forgotten, discarded items. There's a lot of them on the bima here. But according to Ki Tetzei, returning items to their owners is actually of central importance. Though on its surface, this mitzvah relates to physical objects. It talks about oxen and donkeys and clothes. In keeping with the themes of Elul and self-reflection, this week, as I read our Torah portion, it sparked a deeper question for me. How does this mitzvah relate to non-physical things that we lose? How can it apply spiritually or metaphorically? What does it teach us that we have to do when we have lost touch with a friend or with a part of ourselves that we used to nurture and treasure? As my friend Rabbi Jen Gubitz has taught, the High Holy Days are a time of returning lost objects. During the days of awe, we focus on recovering what we have lost, on seeking out what's missing in our lives, on discovering what we already have that we never realized, and on determining what is no longer useful to us and that we want to discard and not bring with us. Of course, it's not just about lost stuff of great value. It's about checking the lost and found for broken relationships, hidden ideals, blurred visions, and unrealized dreams. The last line that I read of the Deuteronomy text about the lost cattle drives home how we should handle this spiritual search process. Lo titalem, do not remain indifferent. Do not ignore what or who is important in your life. Do not remain indifferent. Do not disregard the tiny things that could actually bring you great meaning. Reb Dr. Mimi Feigelson, an educator and scholar at the Schechter Institute of Jerusalem, offers us a way. Reb Mimi suggests a framing from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, who teaches that God is the finder of all that we have lost. And until we are ready to reclaim what we have lost, God will hold on to everything. Our items, our passions, our relationships and identities with an infinite timeline, just waiting for us to be ready to reclaim them. In tandem with this divine holding, however, Reb Mimi also suggests that this week's Parsha commands us to take action and actively seek out finding and reclaiming that which we have lost for ourselves and for those around us. As we begin this month to consider all that we have lost in our lives, she asks, can we be spiritual finders for each other? Can we hold on to each other's greatness and promise in those moments when one of us has lost their vision? Can we help each other reclaim that which was dear to our heart and soul and we are no longer connected to? While journeying through this month of Elul and cleaning out the rooms of our heart and soul, can we designate one corner, a lost and found, for our dear ones to come and claim that which they have lost, and we, in love and faith, have been holding on to for them? Our High Holy Day liturgy teaches, Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva chadesh yamenu kekedem. Return us, Adonai, to you, and we shall return. Renew our days like they were before. In this new year of 5783, may we be, for ourselves and for our loved ones, seekers, finders, and restorers of all that we have lost, holding each other up and, with compassion and love, helping each other to reunite with the lost pieces of our souls. Kei Nihi Ratzon, may it be so.